Okay, malcontents, it's that time of day again. We are going to do Malcontented Minutes again. And we've listened to your feedback and we have made some changes to how we're going to be doing things. So here is the thing, mods and admins, time to drop the link. And then maybe you could drop that link. Oh, it was like a link. Yes, there is a link. There's a link to a poll. If you go to that poll, although I would say you probably should wait to the end to vote, but we will keep dropping that as we go through Malcontented Minutes. You get to control the news because you get to vote for the story that Jennifer and I will go deeper in at the end of the show when we do our Malcontented Minutes. And we have 10 pieces ready. Jennifer, are you ready to go?
Let's do it.
All right, we're going to do it. I'm going to take it off first.
All right.
And let me start the timer. All right, story number one takes us to Texas. Texas had an Amber Alert this morning go very, very wrong when a test of the system resulted in an alert to be on the lookout for. Let me just play this video for you.
Subscribers of the Texas Alert System received a strange Amber Alert this morning in the search of a Chucky doll. Yeah, you're hearing that right. Texas DPS mistakenly sent out this Amber Alert for the Chucky doll and his supposed child, Glenn. The Amber Alert listed the character from the Child's Play horror series as a 28-year-old suspect, quote, wielding a huge kitchen knife. The alert was sent via email 3 times to subscribers in the system. DPS says the alert was a test malfunction and are working to ensure something similar does not happen in the future.
All right, Jennifer, 60 seconds, unpack it for us.
I don't even know what to say about that other than like it's Texas. It's Texas and Florida. I mean, Chucky, David, I can't. I don't even know what to do with that.
Be on the lookout for a 28-year homicidal doll with a very large knife.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, where's his bride? Where'd she go? I mean.
Okay, Jennifer will go ahead and restart the timer, and you can start story number 2.
Okay. Are you ready?
Yeah, you go.
Okay. So, Meghan Markle, of course, had to shut down claims from a British tabloid about Archie's birth certificate that she had become so demanding that she wanted HRH, or Her Royal Highness, on the birth certificate rather than Rachel Meghan, which is actually her first and middle actual name. So publicists for Markle actually came out and said, no, this was not something she did. And they were like really adamant about this, not something she did, but rather was requested by Buckingham Palace. And this is extremely problematic because Markle, of course, has been the subject of a lot of ridicule because she is BIPOC, because of the longer history of Britain and the British Empire, and it also adds fuel to the fire about perceived controversies between her and Kate Middleton. I ended early.
End scene. She's been through hell. I just don't know how else to put it, right? She's just been through hell. The British tabloid press has been awful to her. By all reports, the royal family's been awful to her. That's why the two of them are like, we're out.
Yeah, peace.
I'm out. We're moving.
Yeah.
And it's just gross.
It is. It's extremely gross. Yeah.
And I think that's all I have to unpack that one.
Yeah, I think it pretty much says everything it needs to say.
And by the way, Malcontent, you might have noticed we got rid of the buzzer. I didn't tell you that one. I wanted to keep that as a surprise. All right, with that, we're going to go ahead and do story number 3. Story number 3 takes us to the Missouri History Museum, which has opened up a virtual exhibit on LGBTQIA history within the state. It is now available online to anybody for free. The exhibit is virtual for now, but the museum is looking for artifacts to add to the collection for a 2024 live exhibition. Museum officials are asking the public within Missouri to share LGBTQI mementos, no matter how big or small. And they point out that you may have something around your house that you were like, and they're like, no, we actually may be very interested in it. So even if the smallest items may be of value for documenting the evolution of the LGBTQIA community in the Show Me State. The mod team is going to share a URL in the comments to the exhibit. I got tongue-tied, Jennifer. Go ahead and unpack it for us.
So I think that's a really good thing that they're creating this space to kind of celebrate LGBTQIA people, and I think creating more spaces like this. This is very similar to what we talked about last week, turning this old KKK center into kind of a center that talks about racism. So transforming these spaces into something good that can serve underserved communities, I think, is always a wonderful thing.
Yeah, I thought it was a great story, especially as you look at a state like Missouri, right, which is going progressively redder and redder and redder. They were one of the states that you covered last week that's trying to pass these transgender laws. So it is good to see that the art community is saying "fuck you" to the people that are trying to do that.
This is written.
Okay, I think we're going to go to you in story number 4.
Okay, so in less feel-good news, Carmen Vasquez, a longtime LGBTQIA activist, Puerto Rican, grew up in Harlem, passed away at the age of 72 from COVID complications, but that's not something I really necessarily want to focus on because we have the whole COVID stuff coming already. But she did some really amazing things, came back to New York in the 90s, became the director of public policy at the LGBTQ Community Center from 94 to 2003, and helped form the New York State LGBTQ Health Services Network from 2003 to 2007. More recently, in her lifetime of work for the LGBTQIA community, Vasquez co-chaired the board of directors of the Woodhull Freedom Foundation, an organization dedicated to promoting sexual freedom, and was the coordinator of the New York State Department of Health LGBT Health and Human Services Unit. She also did some amazing work with LGBTQIA elders, which she was celebrated for. So rather than discussing this in the context of another COVID death, I think we should celebrate Carmen Vasquez's long body of work that contributed to the gains made by the LGBTQIA community.
And I would totally agree with that. It's a shame, right? We've had to report in the last 5 days the death of 2 pioneers in this community. One from COVID, one from apparently, would you say, natural causes. There was nothing else to indicate otherwise. It's an indication of how far the community has come, but likewise also an indication of how far that community needs to go, the LGBTQIA community. I think one of the things that has happened that's it's definitely a net positive, is there is a general more acceptance in the sense of sexuality and what goes on between consenting adults in a bedroom or a kitchen or the basement or is the business of consenting adults.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah.
What's that?
I didn't say anything. I just said yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. With that, we're going to go to story number 5.
Okay.
Story number 5. David Bell was the director for Central County Fire in Missouri, outside of St. Louis, when he fell ill. Over the period of a week, his wife Sadie brought him to Barnes Jewish Hospital twice, where his complaints about his medical condition were dismissed by physicians in the ER. On his 3rd trip, a fireman that he works with drove him to the hospital after he exhibited severe problems breathing and then called his wife. Sadie found Bell in a wheelchair outside of the hospital, same one, Jewish Barnes, with doctors refusing to see him, saying he had already been there 2 previous times and there's nothing wrong with him. As she was assisting them to their car to drive him to a different hospital, he said, and I quote, "Oh, Sadie," and collapsed on the ground. A good Samaritan started CPR in the hospital parking lot. David Bell, a black man, was declared dead. GoFundMe has been set up with a target of $15,000, and over $50,000 have been raised when we went to airtime. Jennifer, a lot to unpack on that story.
Yeah, man, we've got a lot of heavy stuff to cover tonight. And I mean, just what again, testament to the existence of systemic racism in our society that continue to jeopardize the lives of BIPOC people. And just a very, very sad story. I don't know. I don't even know where to go with this now. And this is a really sad way to have to start off Black History Month too, David.
It's a fucking horrible way to start Black History Month.
Yeah.
All right, Jennifer, why don't you start us with story number 6.
Oh, with more racist propaganda bullshit, we have Jason Rance's column on mynorthwest.com. Basically, racism guised as conservative principles, where he's going off on a nonsensical diatribe about Seattle Public Schools teaching radical BLM anti-police lessons to K through 5 students. And basically, it's Black History Month. Teachers have some liberty with what they can teach people, teach students. And so there's myriad ways, teachers are actually engaging these discussions of Black History Month. And so there's an entire week that is, he claims, dedicated to affirming the demands of the Black Lives Matter movement. He says it's a political movement that was created by a coalition of leftist activists to teach kids as young as pre-garden to be adherents to social justice causes, because being adherent to social justice causes is very terrible, Jason. Oh my God, I think you are just a horrible person. And he says also that some teachers, even those who support the movement, think the lessons and approaches go too far, but he doesn't give any specific examples of this because it's terrible journalism and just writing more broadly. I'm sorry, I'm really furious at this dude. This is awful. And so he goes on to quote this lesson on the Day of Demands, including restorative justice, empathy, love, and engagement, and introduces students to a number of radical views, such as Black Lives Matters is an ideological and political intervention in a world where Black lives are systemically and intentionally targeted for demise. How is that a fucking radical view, Jason? How is that a radical view when it's true? You poor oppressed white man.
So Jennifer... You're like 45 seconds over, so I'm going to call time, but people can vote. If they want us to talk about this one, you can vote. We'll talk about it more. I have 2 really quick hot takes because I gave you basically my time. Number 1, Jason Rance, history is going to be talking about Black Lives Matter long after history has forgotten about you, buddy. And number 2?
Chud. Cannibalistic, humanoid, underground dwellers.
That's right, Jason. That chud was for you. All right, let me go to story number 7. Story number 7, the video speaks for itself. On January 31st, the pandas at the National Zoo in Washington, D.C. enjoyed the snow. So, Malcontents, enjoy 51 seconds of pandas playing in the snow.
Oh,
I almost got that timing down perfect, Jennifer. Jennifer, that is yours to unpack.
Man, I needed that, David, because I was so mad after the rants thing in our first video. I was like, oh, pandas, that is amazing. So yay, pandas. Pandas are adorable. I wish I could be a panda and go play in the snow. I don't really have anything to say, but other than thank you for that. That palate cleanser right there.
Who lives under the willow tree? Sexual harassment, panda.
Yep.
I think you're going to have to be like an older millennial to actually get that joke at this point. I think Gen Z might have just gone, what the hell was that about? I can't believe South Park is that old.
Look at it. Look it up.
Go look up sexual harassment panda. Jennifer, you get to follow pandas playing in the snow. So good luck with that.
I am super thrilled about this story, mostly because I just spent a week teaching Indian removal to my college course, and it is the most frustrating, then followed up by slavery in the antebellum South. So I've had 2 really difficult weeks of teaching. But this week, Joe Biden replaced Andrew Jackson's portrait with a portrait of Benjamin Franklin and art from a Chiricahua Apache sculptor named Alan Hauser. Um, you know, this is particularly big news, especially for Native peoples, because Jackson was a self-declared Indian hater. He actually, was very vocal about his dislike or hatred of Native peoples. He was also, of course, the architect of the 1830 Indian Removal Act that resulted in the Trail of Tears. But not only the Trail of Tears, there were actually multiple removals that stemmed from that particular act, and numerous deaths, loss of land, dispossession, all of these things. So getting him out of the Oval Office and replacing him with Franklin, who was actually fairly friendly to Native peoples, and artwork from an Apache sculptor is huge, and I'm very thrilled about this decision.
Would you say Andrew Jackson is the original Chud?
Oh, absolutely. You know what? I have my misgivings about Thomas Jefferson too. Don't get me started. But Jackson was really, quite frankly, a terrible human being.
He was a terrible human. And your reference of Trail of Tears, he defied a Supreme Court order.
Yep.
And removed the Cherokee people out of Georgia and Tennessee.
Yeah, actually, after Justice Marshall ruled in Worcester v. Georgia that Georgia could not apply state laws to Cherokee land, the Cherokee Nation, he basically said, "Well, Marshall made that ruling; let him enforce it."
Yeah, just gross.
Yeah.
The original Chud, Andrew Jackson, excised from the White House.
Mm-hmm.
All right, with that, we're going to go ahead to story number 9. Story number 9. Hey, if you filed or have been collecting unemployment, you're going to love this story. Washington State has announced that anybody who applied or received unemployment from January 1 to 2020 to December 10, 2020, just got another knee to the groin. The identity information, including social security number, bank account and routing numbers, driver's licenses, other DIDs, and in some cases, child support information was all hacked. 1.6 million people. The state unemployment system has been plagued by technology issues and incompetence since COVID created a massive spike in unemployment claims in the state. State Auditor Pat McCarthy may have made the understatement of 2021. Of course, it is only February 1st when they said, "This is completely unacceptable." Jennifer, you get 60 seconds to unpack that shit show.
I have nothing to say. Unemployment in Washington State since the beginning of COVID has been nothing short of a train wreck. You've had people that have were waiting multiple weeks to get money during a pandemic when they didn't have access to money. I had friends that were, in waiting on identity issues and all kinds of things that were not resolved for actually literally months without pay. There was the whole issue with them being scammed prior and having to get money back, which actually froze a lot of people's unemployments for some time. But this has been so woefully mismanaged. I don't understand how the people in charge of ESD have kept their jobs.
Not only kept their jobs, Jennifer, but Levin got promoted to go work for the Biden administration.
Yeah.
Okay, before we do the last story, story number 10, mods and admins, if you could drop the link to the poll. We've got one more story. Jennifer's going to deliver it. So now is the time, or if you already have a favorite, you should listen to Jennifer's, but you probably want to pull that poll up and be ready to vote. You need to vote early and often. We will be checking IDs, and Republicans will be protesting the vote afterwards. I can promise you that.
Yeah.
And with that, Jennifer, why don't you go ahead and bring us to number 10 while I go pick up my show notes, which just fell all over the floor.
Awesome. So there's this weird thing after the GameStop and AMC Reddit, whole Robinhood issue that happened last week. There's this weird thing now going on with silver futures. And so been claimed that Reddit traders are actually trying to, quote, try their squeeze, play with metal, but there's some contestation of who's actually trying to mess with silver prices right now. Because if you look, there's actually several Redditors are like, no, we're not doing this. And so the forum has multiple active threads dedicated to silver on Sunday night, and the phrase "quote silver squeeze" was trending on Twitter. And so it says it's a very different target, but the fact that you can move silvers to a large market is an indication to everybody that they have to take these new technicals seriously. But the silver discussion on Reddit was not all in favor of buying the metal and related equities, with some users arguing that the silver squeeze is an attempt to distract from the trading in GameStop and others. While other posts were in favor of bidding up silver, and one user on Friday night referenced the Hunt brothers' attempt to corner the silver market in the 1980s. If nothing else, the Winklevosses have gained some more notoriety on the whole silver squeeze thing, with Cameron Winklevoss tweeting, "The ramifications of a silver squeeze cannot be underestimated. If it's exposed that there are more paper claims on silver than actual silver, not only would payout be enormous, but gold would be next. Bitcoin fixes this."
A silver squeeze sounds like something sexual harassment panda would talk about.
Exactly.
Well, the first panda, the second panda, the third party panda. Here's my view on it. I wouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole because this is what I know about trading commodities. It's almost as bad as shorting a stock in a really good way to lose a lot of money very, very fast. And that's my view on it. Okay, Malcontents, give us your feedback. We listened. We changed. Let us know. I already saw feedback. You like the ding ding, and we have it 6 seconds before instead of right at the end. We tried to slow down our reads and our pace. And the other thing that we did here was maybe not be so strict on the time. If someone's running over, we're just taking the time away from the conversation. And then the final thing, we already knew that you would be going, but I want to talk more about this one. That we already knew, and that's why we just didn't have the poll ready for you. Go vote, and then the mods, admins will let us know what the winning story is. And that's the one that you said that you liked the most. And we'll go ahead, and that's the one we're going to play. The other thing is we go in there, it's another time to remind you to mess with those algorithms, spam those hearts, let those mods and admins know that you appreciate all the hard work that you're doing. And Jennifer, I'm seeing lots of comments from our Twitch community that they're like, I just earned, this emote or that emote. And so there's a lot, they're loving the emotes. They were done by Rosa for us, by the way. And we were just thrilled to be able to support Rosa and have her support us.
Yeah, they're amazing.
They are. Yours is fantastic.
I know. I wish I could get my hair that color.
If you don't know what we're talking about, Twitch users, let them know in the chat what we're talking about. Those emotes, by the way, merch is coming, and they're going to be on merch. By the way, I haven't seen any comment about my shirt. I bought this for the show.
I didn't know if you were like having some self-loathing going on or what. So I figured let's just leave it alone.